Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So this Friday, Danny Jacobs will make his ring return and super middleweight debut against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now this fight, there's been a bit of controversy in regards to the build-up in relation to drug testing and things like that. I'm not really going to delve into that, to be quite honest, because ultimately that's not my scene, and there's a lot better channels on YouTube who discuss that type of issue. That's not really my thing. I just really want to discuss the fight and give a quick preview for it. Now this fight is going under the radar, mainly because, let's be honest, it should be a fairly one-sided fight in Danny Jacobs' favour. Going into this fight, Danny Jacobs is a massive bookies favourite. He's expected to win, and he's expected to win in good fashion. Most people don't really expect a competitive fight, and I suspect that's why it's going under the radar. And obviously also, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. has lost a lot of star power in recent years. Basically, it's gone from bad to worse since he lost to Sergio Martinez. He's never got to that same level since. He's never got to that same level of performance or popularity, and like I say, it's been downhill since that loss to Malavia back in 2012, and this really is last chance saloon for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Can he redeem himself? Can he pick up the biggest win of his career? Drum roll, I would say no. I think this fight is more of a showcase for Danny Jacobs in his new weight class. Essentially, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., like I said, he's gone from bad to worse since that Malavia defeat back in 2012. And ultimately, Chavez's style just complements Danny Jacobs' style. Danny Jacobs should really style on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and look quite good. And that's what I expect. It was obvious Danny Jacobs, towards the end of his 160 reign, was struggling to make weight. In the Canelo fight, he looked very dry and depleted of energy. Moving up those extra 8 pounds should help him a lot, and I expect him to look a lot fresher, a lot quicker, and a lot more dynamic. And against a guy like Chavez Jr., that's going to make you look good, because Chavez Jr., he's slow as molasses. Like I say, he's got worse since his first defeat in 2012, and he's just too slow, too cumbersome, and quite frankly, in my opinion, not good enough to trouble someone like Danny Jacobs. So I expect Danny Jacobs to win this fight comfortably and win it in good style. Whether he stops Chavez Jr. is another matter. One thing I will give Chavez Jr., he is pretty tough. He does have a decent chin, and maybe he's tough enough to take Danny Jacobs for distance, but I really don't envisage him troubling Danny Jacobs in any real way. Danny Jacobs should really have it all his own way here. Quicker hands, quicker feet, much better boxer, better combination puncher, better counter puncher. He pretty much does everything better than Chavez Jr. Maybe the only area Chavez Jr. is superior is in the chin department. Other than that, Jacobs is better in every other department as far as I'm concerned. So I fully expect Danny Jacobs to win this fight and win it in good fashion, and I'm confident that is what will happen in this fight. As for Chavez Jr., how will he go about it? He needs to go about it the only way he knows how, and that's apply pressure. He's not going to stand off and box Danny Jacobs because he's got no chance. He should at least play into his strengths and try to apply pressure, work that body, push Jacobs back, and try to make it a dogfight. That's what Chavez Jr. should do, but does he still have the hunger to carry out that type of fight at 33 years old, with over 50 fights? I doubt it, to be honest. Why is Chavez Jr. going to show that hunger now when he never showed it in his prime? The only hunger Chavez Jr. showed in his prime was when he got the munchies after smoking a big fat blunt. That's the only hunger Chavez Jr. has ever showed in his career. So I expect him to get beat up here, and quite frankly, I am rooting for Danny Jacobs in this fight. For me, Chavez Jr., just a complete spoilt brat. He's had so many opportunities in boxing that a lot of fighters would have killed for, and he blew them all away due to ill discipline and laziness. And quite frankly, I can't support a fighter like that. To be honest, I really can't. So hopefully Danny Jacobs wins this fight and banishes Chavez Jr. from the boxing sphere. I don't really want to see this guy again after this fight. Unless he does something crazy and really puts on a good show, I never want to see this guy again. And yeah, hopefully Danny Jacobs wins and wins in good fashion. Also, just to mention on the undercard, there is something to look forward to as well. You've got a great fight at flyweight between Julio Cesar Martinez Aguiar and Christopher Rosales. That is for the vacant WBC flyweight title, vacated by Charlie Edwards. Of course, Martinez and Edwards fought for that title a few months ago, and essentially that fight was ruled a no contest due to Martinez hitting Edwards on the ground. And since then, Edwards has moved up in weight, and now Martinez has a second chance to win that title against Christopher Rosales. I make a note of that fight because stylistically that should be a war. Christopher Rosales, a former world champion himself, hard-punching guy, aggressive, much like Julio Cesar Martinez Aguiar. That should be a really, really good fight. Should be a barn burner, but I'm picking Julio Cesar Martinez to win that fight. I think he'll beat Rosales, but it's a good fight and one I'm looking forward to. Just to note as well, on the undercard, you've got Maurice Hooker making his comeback. He is fighting now at welterweight. He will be making his welterweight debut against a gentleman by the name of Uriel Perez. You've also got Liam Smith taking on tough, durable trial horse Roberto Garcia. It's a good workout for Liam Smith, but Liam Smith should win. You've got Gabriel Rosado fighting on the card against a lower level opponent. You've got Daniil Yelusinov fighting a guy called Alan Sanchez in a slight step up. Josh Kelly is actually on the card as well against Winston Campos. And you've also got prospects such as Raymond Ford and Rishat Mati. So that's the undercard. There are a few things to look out for on the undercard. Like I say, Julio Cesar Martinez Aguiar versus Christopher Rosales is actually a really good fight, and that's one I'm looking forward to. And you've got a few other half-decent bits on the undercard as well. So the undercard isn't too shabby, but for main events, I've got to be honest, it doesn't really get the blood pumping. But I thought I'd do a preview for it, because obviously I'm a fucking soldier, so there we go. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Feel free to drop a comment, drop a like, hit the sub button if you haven't already. Really helps me out, so there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Peace.